Hey Scoobs, Autumn here. This morning it's quite early. It's that 3 a.m. hour, when we all wake up. Haha, my beautiful groovy Scoobies, my enlightened one, my supernaturally intelligent beings in this matrix. This morning I'm going to talk to you about something I've been wanting to address for a while. I'm going to talk to you about being a walk-in. Many of you know that you're from other star systems, other star galaxies. Many of you have had that oddball out experience since you were very, very young. Maybe you're much like me. I'll tell you my story. It may resonate. The age doesn't matter, but it's important for you to understand how you start to understand that you are a walk-in. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explain what a walk-in is. A walk-in is a being from the astral realms. Part of you, your higher self, your bigger self, your supernatural self, remains in the astral realm. All right, you remain in your star system. You remain in your astral place. Remember, not all astral beings have a place, so to speak. You don't necessarily have to be from the Orion constellation or the Sirian constellation. You don't necessarily have to be an Andromedan or an Arcturian. You might just be an astral being. There were many of us that were created from the dawn of creation. Pardon me, I'm smoking, so I'm going to probably take pauses, and hopefully you can bear with me. It's early in the morning, and I'm in a pretty chill mode. Hopefully you're kicking back and you're in a chill mode during this beautiful holiday season. Speaking about that, I do want to explain that we are still in Halloween, okay? A lot of people have this misnomer that Halloween is on the 31st of October, and that's it. No. Halloween begins in September, the season of death, the season of fall, autumn, if you will, right? And it continues until spring, the maypole, right? So you want to make sure that you're aware that right now, from September until May, is when the veil is the thinnest. This is when the most supernatural goes on. This is when most paranormal activity will ensue. So the holiday season is beautiful, and one of the reasons that we have the Yule log, one of the reasons that we have so many quote-unquote decorations, which are actually cures if you're into metaphysical practices from the East and you practice feng shui or anything of that nature. I don't want to skip over or discount Hinduism, right? I want you to be aware that they also practice cures. So it's not just feng shui, it's not just the Chinese practice of feng shui, but there's also cures that are used in Hinduism and other various sects that go throughout the Middle East. So be aware that a lot of our decorations are cures to keep spirits away during this season, right? During this season where the veil is the thinnest. All right, so be aware, like our lights, right? Our candles, our decorations that are shiny, our little elves on the shelves, our Christmas gnomes, whatever it is, you may not be aware of it, but maybe when you're decorating your tree this year, O Tannenbaum, and you're looking at some of these little trinkets, as I like to call them, the bows, the candles, the popcorn, the cranberry wreaths, garlands, things of that nature, the tinsel. Take into consideration the lore of what it is that you're actually using as decoration. It might even be fun, if you have little ones, to look up, where did the star come from? Why do we use a star? Where is the Yule log coming from? Why do we use a Yule log? What does tinsel actually represent, and when was it first used? Things of that nature, because as you do the exploration, you're going to start to realize that a lot of these things that we use as quote-unquote decorations during the season of darkness were implemented because it is a season of darkness, because it is the season when the veil is the thinnest and there is the most supernatural and paranormal activity that is going on. And many of our ancient knowledge has been destroyed. We know this already, right? This is not something new. I'm not producing that. That's not what this video is about. So you can go and look it up from many other people who are exploring ancient cultures, ancient tomes, ancient myths, if you will. There's a lot of beautiful, beautiful thought leaders and content creators that I've subscribed to. I highly suggest that you check any single one of them out, and I'm sure that you'll find whatever information it is that you're looking for. Or, as I like to say, you can always just type it right into the search bar, and I guarantee you somebody by now has definitely done a video on it, because we are amidst our ascension. Okay? So a lot of these cures, as they're actually called, these treatments, if you will, were created to keep the darkness at bay, to keep the darkness away. One of the favorite things that they used to put around the home during this time of year would be holly. Holly is actually a spiritual tool, just like holy basil, right? Just like holy rosemary. It keeps things at darkness. Just remember, lavender is holy as well, and it keeps the darkness, the negative spirits away. Everybody is very familiar with saging, with sweetgrass and sage, white sage. So those are tools that you're very much aware of already in present day society, but also the frankincense, the myrrh, these things, right? So be aware also, I don't know if any of you are aware of it, but you have metaphysical tools most likely right in your own backyard. Pine is a holy tool. It is a holy leaf. It is a holy wood to burn during this time of year, and any time of year that you burn holly or you burn pine, you're actually sending negative energy out of your home. One of my favorite things to do at the end of the holiday season would be to cut down my own Christmas tree, if you will, and I would save that particular tree. I would save that wood and I would use it for burning all year long, because it's a holy saging item. So maybe this year, instead of just tossing it out in your front yard, you go get yourself a small hatchet and you start hacking off those little branches and create bunches so that you can burn it during your metaphysical practices throughout the year and throughout the rest of the dark season, as I call it, so that you can have that protection. Make sure you bless your tree. I know that nobody talks about this, but I always used to bless my tree. As you're decorating your tree, bless your tree. Tell your tree to bring you peace. Tell your tree to bring you protection. Tell your tree to bring you warmth. Tell your tree to watch over your family. Remember, trees are living. That's why you need to put water in the bottom of the basin throughout the season as you have it in your home, right? Our trees, our plants, they're all living. They're all very much alive, just like our crystals and our stones, right? So make sure that as you're decorating your tree, you're telling your tree what you want to bring into your home for the new year. You're telling your tree what you want it to do for your family, how you want to protect your family. This is why we brought pine trees into our home, because they're protective and they actually do protect the home. This is one of those old ancient knowledges that have not been disclosed. This is why we use actually pines, right? This is one of the reasons that they used to use the pine. This is why they made the Yule log out of pine. This is why they made the Christmas tree, the Tannenbaum, out of a pine, because the pine has metaphysical protective qualities during the dark season that keep the darker energies, or the darker entities, if you will, at bay. Once again, I want to touch upon the truth that a demon is somebody that was twisted up by those who practice craft and enslave. They're actually daemons. They're actually meant to help you. That's what they were brought into our world for, to help us to attain success, riches, bountifulness, and then they were twisted by those who practice dark crafts. We all know the story about that. Somebody recently put up a really great video on the Nephilim and how they took wives of men and how they taught the wives of men that switchcraft, as I'll call it, because I want to be very careful about my wording here, okay? So just be aware that that is the reason that we actually have pine Christmas trees, all right? It was a metaphysical protection tool that we brought into our home in ancient times to keep us safe, to protect our family, our home, our hearth during the season of darkness, which does not end until the maypole. Now, to get back to what I wanted to touch upon, being a walk-in. A walk-in is a being who knows that they're not this avatar. You usually know it at a very, very young age. You most likely have very vivid dreams where you were traveling the astral plane. You may have had dreams where you were other people in other lifetimes. This was your indication that the avatar you're embodying is not the avatar that you are, correct? Finally, there's also a disembodiment phase that you generally go through around puberty. Maybe you went through it younger, maybe you went through it at an older age, so take it how it resonates. I personally went through it at puberty, where suddenly you realize, whoa, I'm in this avatar. What is this story about? What is this situation about? You sort of have this feeling at that point that maybe you were dreaming your whole existence up until the point of you hitting puberty. That's because you have the biochemical changes that happen in your body. It's a little bit more profound for women than it is for men, but for women it's mostly profound because you have that whole cycle that you go into and you're like, whoa, baby, my body's doing something totally new, and I could see what's happening right there, so I can't deny that this is my physical being, right? So that usually gives you this sort of cognitive dissonance that happens. I don't know how it goes down for men because I'm not a man, but maybe you can get up there and you can tell your story too, bro. That would be great. Help us, more than what we spread this knowledge, the better off that we are. So your guides are saying that for many of you, you probably also went through a lot of childhood trauma. That's another strong indication that you're an astral being having a 3D experience within the avatar. That's because the darker entities, and once again, I want to make sure you understand, these are not daemons. These are just entities. There's a lot of entities that float around in the astral realm. There's a lot of entities that float around in the supernatural and metaphysical realms that are not daemons, okay? There's way more out there than just those types of beings, all right? There's much lore that's been lost to us, much more stories and ancient knowledge that's been lost to us. Hopefully they'll start to come to the surface, but we've lost a lot of our older people, and I'm telling you, I'm going to say this as carefully as I can, I don't believe that us losing older generations that held this knowledge was by accident. Let me leave it at that. Okay, so many of us have lost these stories that maybe would have been told to us by our great-great-grandparents who no longer are with us or weren't even with us in our formative years. They couldn't tell us the stories that their great-great-grandparents told them and their great-great-grandparents told them. So we've lost a lot of our ancient wisdom and knowledge. Many of you may be tapping into the astral realms and gleaning this knowledge, and I hope that you're courageous enough to tell it and to put it out there. It doesn't matter how kooky you sound. Look at the stuff that we have online. Are you kidding me? Kooky is the way of the day. Give me a break. Tell your story. If you have to couch it in fiction, this is a story. Whatever you have to do. Storytelling is a great craft. It's a beautiful craft. It's a beautiful, beautiful art form. I hope that we start having more storytelling festivals, because storytelling is a great way for us to convey the information that we need to convey in a very discreet fashion, right? Fiction is the queen of information, if you will. So what'll happen is, as you're going through like your formative years, like I said, you'll start to realize like, whoa, I'm actually in this being. That's how you know you're a walk-in. That's how you know that maybe you're actually moving through the avatar. Many times throughout different experiences in your life, especially if you've had trauma, or especially if you've been in a quote-unquote life and death situation, and many of you will have been in multiple life and death situations where if I don't go left, I'm probably going to lose my life, and thank God when I look back on it, I went left, but I don't know why I did. I kind of felt like I was in the back seat, not the driver's seat. That's another way to know that you are an astral walk-in. Now, what is an astral walk-in? An astral walk-in is a being, as I said, that dwells in the spiritual planes. You dwell in the metaphysical planes. You dwell in the astral planes. It's probably very easy for you to tune in, and tap out, right? And you probably don't need, like me, any substance to do so. You're stone cold sober. You just put yourself in that state, or you just actually just get into your zone, man, right? Like maybe you meditate, maybe you do something of like an Edgar Cayce dream, psychic ability. There's many different ways that many of us tap in, but you don't need anything to get you there. No dodgy substances, if you will. You're probably a stone cold straight edge, as we used to call it back in the day, and you don't indulge in anything because it would actually interfere with your metaphysical abilities, right? So your guides are saying that you may have had these experiences going through your life where suddenly you made the right decision, but you weren't in the driver's seat, and you knew you weren't in the driver's seat, right? You could feel like you were somehow behind the individual that you're embodying, that they were making this decision, but you, your true self, your higher self, your astral self, your metaphysical being, your supernatural self, was the one with the reins. You were the one making the direction. A fine example for me is to share so that I can explain it to you in a way so that you understand is when I was younger, I had gone out with a group of friends and everybody had gone drinking and we were all out enjoying a band, a good night, I don't drink anymore, just so you know. I'm a stone cold straight edge, have been for many a year now. So if anybody's telling you I'm taking this and I'm doing that and I'm a drug addict or I'm an alcoholic or I indulge in woo-woo substances, they're flat out lying because, I don't know, they like to lie. That's what their shtick is. They're trying to paint me out to be something I'm not. I'm a straight edge. All right? So I was out with them one night, and it was really funny because somebody was the designated driver. And as we got into the car, we were piling into the car, and we were going back home. And I was chit-chatting with a friend in the back seat, and and all of a sudden I looked up, and this girl was driving down the road and proceeded to turn into not one, Scoobs, 4 lanes of oncoming traffic at night. And I mean, this was a busy area. This was like a hopping town. 4 lanes of oncoming traffic. I literally jumped into the front seat, pushed her out of the way, drove over to the Meridian, whipped that car around, and at least got my own butt home and told the next person next to me that I thought was sober enough, like, you should probably call a cab and leave the car here, but make sure you get to the corner and get somebody here that can help you guys get home, because she's obviously not sober. She's lying about being a designated driver. That is when you know that you're an astral being embodying the avatar, because you don't think, you move, you act, and you don't feel like it's you. You feel like it's you being moved by something. How can I say it? You feel like it's you moving the avatar. It's not the avatar moving you. You're the one in the driver's seat, but you can actually see through the eyes of the person that you're actually embodying. You actually make moves that are so powerful and so quick and so Johnny on the spot that if you hadn't made that move, you probably wouldn't be here to tell the story about it, right? So that's one of the experiences that I went through, that like, that's how I would just say life and death situation, right? Like, it's like you'll make these decisions or you'll make these moves and you're going to make them so quickly that there is no thinking process involved. That's a way that you know that you're a walk-in. Another way that you know that you're a walk-in is you probably always felt like the odd duck out. Even if you were somebody who was popular, even if you were somebody who was able to adapt, even if you were somebody who was able to kind of like be in with the in crowd, you'll find that you are always somewhere in the back of your own being, like observing, right? Like maybe you're getting down with the get down, but there was a part of you that was in the back of you, like in the rear section of your mind, that was watching it all, not really involved, not really fully engaged. You may have been doing or embodying or engaging in behaviors and activities and things, and I'm not talking about, like, let's not get judgy here, right? We're only here to have an experience. Don't be judging what you did. That's stupid, right? But where you were looking at it going, why do I feel like I'm not really doing this? Why do I feel like I'm more observing this activity? Yet it's me, it's my avatar engaging in it. It's me like dancing with this person or having a drink with this person or going swimming with this person or on the roller coaster with this person, but yet you're in the back of your head looking at it more or less, observing the activity rather than actually being in the activity. That's another way for you to know that you're a walk-in, you're a metaphysical being. The reason I'm telling you this is because this is the age of ascension, all right? Many of us who are on that higher path, many of us that are actually in tune with the spiritual and metaphysical realms, many of us that are searching for that real knowledge, that true knowledge, that Gnostic knowledge, if you will, we're aware of this matrix and have been for a really long time. You've probably always felt like the oddball out. You probably always felt like you were driving a vehicle rather than being in the individual that you are. That's why we have so many substances and embodiment things thrown at us: lust, food, drugs, alcohol, sensational things, because those that are the enslavers and controllers of this particular matrix want us anchoring into the avatar, and the way to anchor us into the avatar is through the physical activities, the physical acts that we do that keep us engaged in the physical being rather than in tune with your astral being, the true self, all right? So you know me, I'm always harping on the drum of fasting. Fasting is a really great tool to help you disengage from the physical being, as is celibacy. That doesn't mean you have to be a lifelong celibate, all right? You might be in a relationship and you're enjoying that, and go ahead, but you know, taking a break from that every once in a while is not a bad thing, because it helps you disengage from this 3D avatar, as well as fasting, as well as, you know, the Lenten process. The Lenten process wasn't introduced to us because we have to punish ourselves for our sins. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. It was actually introduced as a metaphysical tool to help you to refrain, right? So that if you abstain and you refrain, you actually tap into your higher self, your astral self. Now, many of you may have already cotton to this, but I'm going to throw it out there so you understand. Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Moses, Aaron, many of our prophets, you know, Confucius, there's a lot of them that I probably don't know the name of, and please forgive me, but these were astral beings. These were walk-ins. That's why they were so enlightened. That's why they were able to move through the avatar in the way that they did. There's an actual moment where Jesus has the dove come down, and that's when he knew the full knowledge of who he was. That's when he stepped into the avatar of Jesus, right? And he did his ministry. He proceeded to go forth and preach his ministry, which again, if you're a true Christian, the only law is love. The only law is love. And if you love, you're not judging other people. If you're out here finger pointing, you ain't no true Christian. And I'm going to say that flat out, because he said, above all, there is only one law, and that law is love. And to love, you're not judging other people. You're loving other people. Doesn't matter what their orientation is. Doesn't matter what their belief system is. Doesn't matter what their skin tone is. It doesn't matter what their political beliefs are. Doesn't matter how they move and operate in society. Because you know why? You love. You love thy neighbor like your brother. That was the only law he practiced. Everything else is dogma and narrow-minded thinking to control. And I totally want to say that straight up. And if you don't like what I'm saying, click off. So your guides are saying that you have to understand that many of our great prophets, many of our great gurus, many of our great people who've been able to do such incredible things, like the monks in Tibet that are able to, elevate, right? They're able to levitate. They're able to tap in and tune out for from what it's been observed, I think it's almost 90 days without food, without drink, without covering. And the reason is because they're astral beings, walk-ins, stepping into their avatar. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of why you might be feeling a little off, especially this year. This year is a very providential year. This year, 2024, is very significant. 2023 is very significant. If you do the numerological assessment behind it, you'll understand it, okay? I personally observed, as of this past quote-unquote Halloween, the lunar cycle has gone backwards. It doesn't align. Usually, and every single year up until 2023, the full moon was on Halloween, October 31st. The full moon was not on Halloween this year. It was actually days before Halloween, which means that we're going back. There's a return to old. There's a regression timeline going on now. That doesn't mean we're falling into back practices. It's a reset, and I want you to be aware that that's part of why you may be going into this ascension process right now. If you're only aware that you're a walk-in right now, don't beat yourself up about it. Just acknowledge it. Do the meditation. I always suggest that you do a meditation with a circle of salt around you. Make sure you sage your space. Make sure that you do the grounding. Make sure you have a white candle in the circle with you, and do your meditation practice to connect to your higher self. You don't need to connect to Great Spirit. You don't need to connect to God, universe. You need to connect to you, and there's a bigger, greater you on the other side. That's who's really running the show, the I am that I am, right? So you need to get in tune with that higher self, because as I've told you many, many times, once you tune into that higher self, that astral self, that truer supernatural being that you are, you're not going to have questions. Believe it or not, you will not be swayed by other people and their opinion, because all you'll need to do is tap in to your heart space, your heart chakra, tap into your sacral chakra, and you'll know. You won't even be thinking. You'll be sitting there listening to some rhetoric, some sort of false karmic information that's coming through a reading or a psychic prediction or whatever it is, false narrative, whether it be religious, political, cultural, movement-wise, whatever the deal is, whoever it is trying to spout their word magic at you and get you to fall into their belief system. You'll be able to listen to it, wholeheartedly listen to it, and in the back of your mind, you'll be going, yeah, I know what it is that you're trying to get me to do. I know what it is that you're trying to sway me to believe, and you won't fall into it. You'll be stronger, stronger, stronger the more that you tap into your astral and supernatural being. You are an astral being having a 3D experience. You have so much more power than you know. You don't need to look out of yourselves to get the answers. You don't need to go to a psychic. You don't need to go to an astrologer. You don't need to go to a palmist. You don't need to go to a guru. You don't need to go to a bishop. You don't need to go to a religious leader. You don't need to go to a tarot reader. You don't need to go to somebody who reads runes. You don't need to go to somebody who practices switchcraft. You don't need any of that. You don't need to build an altar to your ancestors. You don't need any of that. The only thing that you truly need is to tap into your true astral self, your higher self that's on the other side guiding you. And that's where all your answers lie. It all lies within, Scoobs. Anyway, I did want to talk to you about this because it's been on my mind for a couple of days. I hope this brings you some clarity about what it is to be a walk-in, what it is to experience life as a walk-in. And trust me, once you tap into that knowledge, you'll always know that you're a walk-in. You'll always know who your true astral self is. And by the way, your true astral self probably doesn't have a name because you've lived many, many, many lifetimes, okay? So it's like this name thing, that's a human thing. That's a human being thing. Like, we feel a need to name everything, right? And then we switch names over and over and over and over again for the same exact thing. We call it this today and we call it that next year. It's the most ridiculous thing. Naming is just a way of possessing. So don't feel like if you tap into your higher astral self, you got to find your name. You are who you are, whatever you want to call yourself, right? I call myself Autumn, right? Whatever you want to call yourself is who you are, right? Back in the day, back in the scene, we used to have tags. We never went by our own names, right? Because it's like, that's not really who I am. A rose by any other name still smells the same, still smells as sweet, right? So just know that once you start doing that tap into your higher astral self, you don't need to know the name. And another thing, you're always asking, who are the names of my guides? They may have had a million different names. You don't need to know their names. Actually, you are your own greatest guide, but you seem to fail to make that leap. You need to make that leap. You need to follow that arc, that it's not a bunch of people outside of you or on another plane that is guiding you. It's actually you, your higher self, your astral self, that is guiding you. Okay, Scoops? It's really, really important for you to get with that, because it's a major, major part of all of this energy field. It's a major, major part of our ascension as a collective, okay? And just know that higher self, that astral self, only wants what's best for you. It's not going to lead you to some place where you're going to do something that's damaging to yourself. If it's not of love, it's not for you. If it's not of love and it's not upbuilding you or helping you to grow, it's coming from the wrong source. And you need to let go of it, and you need to move away from it, because that's not what's for you. That's somebody else pulling the strings behind this. Could be switchcraft that they're practicing on you, some sort of bad juju that they're practicing on you, but it's definitely coming from an outside source if it doesn't serve you and it's not coming from a place of love. You need to understand and really get with that as well. What else did I want to tap on? It was just there. Give me a second here, Scoops. It was something really important. That's what it was. So many of you, especially when I speak with you, you have such a fear of the things that you've been told to fear. It's so important for you to question why somebody would tell you something that makes you fearful. Why would somebody want you to be in fear? There's a lot of, and I'm just going to say it out loud, a lot of readers out here are misleading. They're doing it on purpose. It serves them, or it serves somebody who's paying them to keep you caught in a karmic cycle, to keep you going after something that's negative. I have literally heard readers out here who are supposed to be higher vibrational metaphysical beings telling you to self-abuse. Think about that, Scoops. Think about what a reader is saying to you. A lot of readers and a lot of the people who are out here, they're practicing switchcraft. They're putting switchcraft in their videos. They're putting switchcraft in tracks underneath their videos. Pardon me. There you go, confirmation, right? They're putting switchcraft underneath the tracks of the videos that you're watching, and then you become literally addicted to watching them. Like, I have to catch this reader. I have to catch the next reading. I have to see what they say first. Think about that. The same thing about religious ecstatic ecstasy with some of these big mega churches and things of that sort, right? When you're watching their videos, when you're watching their services, it's like you become like ecstatically lost. That's not healthy. Anything that has you in a state of not being grounded is super unhealthy. And I don't mean grounded in the avatar. I mean grounded in your higher self, your chakras, your crown chakra, your ajna chakra. You need to be aware that if you're in a state of like ecstasy, it's not healthy. You're not supposed to be in that. You're supposed to be able to use reason and judgment through every single action of your life. That's part of being in tune with your higher self. So if you're in a place where something's bringing you some sort of ecstasy, where you almost feel like you're disembodied, question that source. If you're in a state of like addiction, where you feel like you need to watch every single video, you need to watch every single short, you need to see what they're going to say the next second, the next second, the next second, like you can't get enough of it, you need to question that, because there's something underlying that, and most likely it's some sort of bad juju, some sort of switchcraft, or there may be some sort of entity or other energy that's behind it, that's moving through that particular service, if you will, or that particular energy field of whoever that is that's disseminating that information. And if you have to constantly go back to a source, and you can't just take something, walk away with it, and it resonates with you, and you move on through your life, but you have to keep going back and asking, going back and asking, going back and asking, going back and asking, that's a really strong indication that there's something underneath that you should be disengaging from, and you need to question it. The same thing with the service. If you feel like you're going to this service, and every single time you go to the service, you feel amazing, you feel beautiful, you feel protected, and then 3 days later, you're sitting in a place of fear, and you can't wait to get to that service because you don't feel protected unless you're amongst that service, unless you're engaging with that service. That's a really, really strong indication that something is wrong there. You should always feel safe. You should always feel protected. You should always feel empowered. And anything that makes you feel disempowered, unless you're engaging with it, that's not looks like they're a little bit mad about me telling you that. They were pretty loud this morning, huh? Okay, so once again, anytime that you're only feeling safe and protected when you're engaging with that service, and you're feeling unsafe, and you're feeling fearful, and you're like, I can't wait to get to that service because then I feel better again, that's a big indicator that there's something wrong with that service, that there's some sort of other energy or entity moving behind that service, because you have to be there and you have to be engaged, and it's like a drug. If you can't get it, or you don't get that hit, baby, then you feel like you're fearful, then you feel like you're a prey in this world. You should never feel like that. Remember, I'm going to close on this because it's the most important thing. One, Jesus' ministry was a ministry of love. Above all these, love. Above all laws is love. There is only one law, love, right? Love and fear cannot occupy the same space, Scoops. Let me say that one more time slowly. Love and fear cannot occupy the same space. So if the thumping on the podium, the rhetoric is fear, 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 and the only place that you're going to be safe is here, 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 you got to question it, all right? Question the narrative. The same thing goes with living in fear. You shouldn't be living in fear. If you're tapped into your higher self, you're always going to make the best decisions that serve you, that are only for your highest good. You're not going to make decisions that make you quake in your shoes or make you worried. A lot of readers out here, a lot of people out here giving out information, they're always telling you, you need to be afraid. This one's about to do this one to you. That one's about to do that one to you. This person's doing this to you. Behind your back, this is going on or that's going on. Question that narrative. Question that. Is that making you, when you walk away from that, is it making you feel better? Or do you sit there and think about it and ruminate on it and mull over it and sit in a place of fear and start looking like side-eyed at everybody in your circle that you used to trust? Think about that. There's an agenda there, Scoobs. There's a big agenda there, and that's to put you in a place of fear. Fear is the enemy. Fear not, for I am with you. And who is the I am? You are the greater I am that I am, right? Would you let yourself down? No, you wouldn't. So fear not, for I am with you. I hope this brought you a lot of insight. I hope this has brought you a lot of wisdom. I hope this has helped a lot of you to understand exactly who you are. And again, you may be from any one of these celestial realms. You may be of any origin. But just know now is our time, our season, to step into our ascension process and acknowledge the higher supernatural and astral beings that we are, and acknowledge that we are walk-ins. You can tap into this avatar at any given point in your life. You may tap in as a child, or you may tap in as an adult, or you may be tapping in next Thursday after you hear this video. It doesn't matter when you tap in. Just know that when you tap in, you're going to know that you're tapped in, because you're sort of moving in the back. You're sort of moving in behind the backdrop, if you will, behind the cardboard props and setups, and you're going to see things through new eyes. You're going to be able to see when somebody's slanting a narrative at you, trying to sway your thinking in one direction or another, or trying to instill fear in you and doubt in you and make you feel insecure about the next steps that you're making going forward, and that you can't make those steps without their guidance, without their hand-holding. We are not meant to be handheld through life, Scoobs. Right? We're not immature adolescents walking through our world. We're adults. We're meant to be the directors of our own will. It is for us to direct our own step. That's another misnomer that we've been handed. It's not for mankind to direct his own step. Yeah, well, the last time I checked, guess who's putting that foot forward? Take your step. Take it with assuredness. Take it with conviction, and make sure that you're checking in with your higher self. I highly suggest meditation. I highly suggest abstinence. I highly suggest fasting to help you to get to that higher ascension. Again, it doesn't have to be a permanent, lifelong decision, but it is definitely something that's worthy of stepping into at least 1 to 3 months so that you can disengage from this faulty avatar that's hungry for everything, hungry hippo, if you will, so that you can start to be in tune with your higher self. And again, I promise you that once you're in tune with your higher astral self, once you're in tune with that astral being that you truly are, that celestial being that you truly are, you will never disengage from that individual again. And you can go back to enjoying life, having a steak and enjoying the fact that it's just a steak, if you will. Well, my Groovy Scoobies, as always, I'm hoping that you're enjoying this beautiful holiday season. I hope that you start to look into the legends and the lores as to the cures and the ornaments that you use and why we may be using them. And I most especially hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful day or evening, depending upon where you are in the world. And always, 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 I am thinking nothing but good thoughts for you. I'm always sending you good energy. But as always, I want to let you know that by sending to you, I am sending you nothing but clean energy, clear energy, pure energy, love energy. Namaste.